Okay, in this lesson I'm going to talk about tables in HTML. So let's get started with the real basics. Tables get used for a lot of times for formatting. Even though we have advanced commands with flexbox and etc., a lot of times indentations and stuff like that, where everything lines up halfway through, will be done quietly with tables. Also, if you can get a command of tables as row span, column span, you can make any table you want. I just draw one and you can code it. It's a big help when it comes to flexbox and some of the more advanced formatting commands. Therefore, you can span things and you can control it and make what you want. It also helps when it comes to formatting with flexbox. Flexbox and some of that stuff will be with the next version of Excel. Next version of Excel, next version of Explorer. I'll do lessons on that in about a year or two. Okay, so let's start with the table. So let's start with the basics. The first one is table. Needless to say, computer, everything I'm now doing is a table. Next thing I want to do is a lot of times there's a caption on top of that table. It doesn't have to be. You don't need one. My table, slash caption. The next one is a table heading. Not sure. This is a preference here. A lot of times the table headings will have headings at the top of table. Sometimes you'll have a different color, background color, font, etc., etc. So they created a simple command so you could deal with that. But it still needs to be within a TR, table row. So the computer, what it does is, how does it figure out the size of the table? It goes ahead and counts the number of TRs, table rows. So that means the number of tables will go down. And then what it'll do, it'll look at the max number of TDs or THs. So let's start with the word TH. Let's say we'll do boys and girls names, slash boys, slash TH. And by default, THs tend to be, oops, not TDs, THs. The standard command is TD. So anyway, TH, girls, slash TH. Okay, so by default this comes to be aligned, centered, and bold. Okay, obviously you can go ahead and do whatever you want here in terms of color, border, background, padding, all the stuff that we've already covered. You're good to go. So I've created my first table row in this table, boys and girls. Okay, now what we do is fill it out. So for TR. And then now it'll be TD. This is generally your table data. Everything will be done this way. Let's see, Greg, some names here. Greg, slash TD, and then I'm going to copy paste. Control C, Control V, and then I'll make this one Mary. So the video's not me just typing, okay? And then I'll do that. Control C, I'm going to end that table row. I'm going to start another one. Control V, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this and change the names. I'm for the most part done. Control V, table data, Bill and Sally. Good enough. And then we need to simply now, I need to end that table row. And then I'm going to end my table. There you go. Now, good to go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a small little table with a table heading. Oops, I see as I look here, I see a mistake there. That should have been a TH. What would have been the difference? Really none. Girls, if I had left that as a TD, it would have simply been not bold, and maybe the alignment would have been slightly off. Okay, so anyway, let's go ahead, Control S, and then refresh, and there you go. So there's my table. Hey, that doesn't look like much of a table. I don't see any lines. I don't see whatever. One of the nice things is that let's go ahead and before we clean it up, let's go ahead and I'm going to do. Maybe I should do that. Put some tables here. So let's go ahead and do some things. We can go ahead and add a border to it. Let's go ahead, tail. Now, really quickly, it depends on what you want to happen. I'm going to do this to everything, but you do not have to do this to everything. It can be to every quite a few things. So let's do the TH, and I'm going to do TD. All those commands, I want to have a border of maybe one pixel. Solid. Now this is a little slightly changed from previous versions. In the old days, the assumption was the style you wanted was solid, and then your optional color here is green. So we can at least look at it. So there you go. So this is table data, TD and THs. Oops, TD. I got THs. Okay. So you can separate these. I've just made this for the. You can have your table, which is your outside square. Then table heading, then table data. You can have these different borders, different colors, etc., just in terms of the sake of time. I just want to refresh and throw in table data. So there's my table, my caption at the top, boys and girls, Sally and whatever. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to control the size. That table's pretty small. Again, browsers ignore spaces. I want to control that size. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead, and I can do that inside the style command here. So I can do table. And it can make it, the big advantage here with tables is it can be any size you want. So 500, and the spacing automatically adjusts. So height is maybe 500 pixels. And width is whatever, 400 pixels. And this is, again, is the real value of tables, because it'll instantly adjust to any size you want. It'll instantly also adjust to the browser size, screen size. Are you on a phone? Are you on a high resolution computer, etc.? There you go. Now I've got this. Okay, so there you go. Now let's go ahead. You'll notice that the THs here are aligned. Okay, so let's go ahead and play some more games. Hey, Korea, I don't want. I want a couple more columns. I don't want 2. I want 3. So let's go ahead. I'm going to add TD. Control C. So the video is not me typing. Control V. I'm going to add another TD. Now let's see what happens to the table. So now I've added another TD. So the computer now is going to make a box of 3 by 3, and then the empty TH, because I didn't fill it in, is just simply left blank. Sally here is, again, simply left blank. So what it does, again, is it counts the number of items inside a table row. The max number controls the number of columns. And obviously TRs controls the number of rows. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about really quickly is I can do some padding here. I can also do alignment. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So we got borders. Next thing I want to talk about is a vertical align, horizontal align. So I can do it text align. So let's do. I can do this as a separate TD if like. TD. Then what do I want? Text align. Your options are left, middle, center. Left, center, right. I'm not sure what I said. Let's do center. Refresh. Now all the TDs will be centered in the left and the center. Hold on, Control S. Refresh. And then they were. I guess they were centered. There you go. Boom. Okay, I got rid of the data. Everything is centered. Okay, now let's go ahead, just quickly change, just to make sure I get control of it. Next thing I want to do is I want to do right. I want everything aligned to the right. Control S, refresh, and everything shifts to the right. At least for my table data. Again, my THs, I can do them separately. Cool. I can do obviously to the left. Next thing I want to talk about is vertical alignment. So what I want to do here is let's go ahead and simply do vertical align like we did with some of the text and images. This works because tables are basically considered non-block items, so I can go ahead and simply do vertical align. So vertical align top. Okay, in my notes I mentioned there was top and text top. A lot of times, just start with the basics: top, and middle and bottom, because sometimes that doesn't translate well to other browsers. So anyway, there's go top right, and I can change it top bottom, top middle. So I now can move that within a cell. Next thing I want to control is I want to go ahead, besides the border, I want to add some border spacing. So this is a little too close for me. I want to change that around. So let's go ahead and do that. A lot of times it's simply to the entire table itself. So let's go ahead and add that. Table. I say border spacing is 5 pixels. Okay. Control S, refresh. There you go. So I can add some spacing. I can put what I want. I can also do some cell spacing here. By default, everything crunches in like we did initially. You can check my notes there because I don't want this video to go too long. I'm going to skip a couple things. So I'd add cell spacing, but I can basically get any kind of table I want. Next thing I want to talk about really quickly is inside. It doesn't have to be simply text with names. I can put images in here. I can put links. I can put tables inside tables. Let's go ahead here, and I'm just going to bring my notes over. I'm not going to go into this because it gets. I do this over a span of a few days classes. Next thing I want to talk about is structuring your table. The first one is column group. So their column group, you can just define certain column spans, so you can define certain colors. Okay, so column group. The next thing I want to talk about is table header, table footer, table body. So again, the header is going to show up at the top. A lot of times you'll have a separate color. Besides the separate colors, a lot of times if you're scrolling, if it's a big table, the table header and the footer will remain. When you're scrolling and when you're printing, it will work. So again, you can check my notes there. I just take a simple table. I highlight. I made everything the normal stuff. Table heading, table footer. Oh, really quickly. Table heading. This is a note. Table. The head and the foot is before the body. I notice that also Google Sites actually uses Google TB table body a lot. So again, not that much in terms of what we've got going on. Okay, and then I also have, you'll notice here, I can do some styling in terms of odd and even, in terms of tables. So even rows are one color, odd rows are another color, and my THs are another color. I chose a simple standard Excel type color. Again, don't like it, go ahead and use your own. Next thing that I do want to talk about is column span, row span, and I'll finish it up. Again, be able to, if you're got a teacher, you're not. This is not virtual school or something. Just go ahead and make up tables. I go on the board, make up a table, and then produce that table. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about column span, row span. So let's go ahead and add some text here. Go back to my first thing I want to talk about is column span. So column span, what does it do? It spans 2 or 3 or whatever number of columns. Control S, refresh, and then refresh, and then this Greg, rather standard prayer, is going to now take up 2 columns. Now you notice Mary shifted over; it created the blanks as you think it would. I can also do table row. So a row span. Row span means that Greg is going to full down. Let's go ahead. Logically, that should make sense. Column span, Greg, and then let's go ahead and do the next one. Hey, Korea, that's not what I wanted. I wanted row span. Row span, Control S, refresh. And now Greg takes up the second 2 rows, and everything shifts over. And then the bottom row shifts over because Greg's going to take up the first location in the second row, and then Bill and Sally. Okay, so all I want you to do is be able to make all sorts of tables and get it to go. I've got some, I think in my notes, let's double check what I got. Besides row and span, which I talked about, I can put them together, row and span together. And I could also make some tables, like for example, this is, oops, see my notes are a little bit old. I haven't updated in a while, a couple of years. So anyway, let's go, boom, and then 8. Refresh my notes, okay. So you can also do HTML, entire calendars in HTML using tables. So anyway, this is sort of a quick run through. Get a command of what if you get complete command of tables, then when we come to Flexbox and some of the other things later on, be a piece of cake. Okay, so tables in HTML.